Here we are.
The Music Maniacs.
Sight After Dark.
All right, I'm Sifa Graffiti.
I'm Dan Berg.
What's up?
We're back again.
Uh-huh.
And we got another topic.
Oh, yeah.
Here on the Music Maniacs podcast. We like to talk about music.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you would have guessed that. So our topic today has to do with music.
Yes.
I know that seems a little crazy.
Yeah.
But we are the Maniacs.
We are the Maniacs. Crazy about music. All types of music. Today we're covering rap music.
We are.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about somebody whose flow is nasty.
Very nasty.
Whose words are deep.
Exactly. He's a godson.
And he goes by the name
of
Nas. Here we are.
Uh-huh.
We're sitting in Brooklyn.
Yes, Brooklyn, home of Nas. Okay?
Whoa.
Let's get this clear.
Wait. Don't come after us.
We will claim him here. Brooklyn's own Nas, just like we claim Michael Jordan here. Born in Brooklyn.
Nas
was born in Brooklyn though.
Yeah, but he doesn't rep Brooklyn.
That's how he got his gift. I would say the only way Nas was blessed with this lyrical genius and this ability to be an artist is because he was born in Brooklyn.
Because he was born in New York Jewish Hospital.
Exactly. in Brooklyn Jewish and Crown Heights. That's right. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made it, okay? Forget about Queensbridge and it being some kind of musical mecca. Those are lies. It's the fact that he was born in Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's all lies.
Right.
Yeah, and never mind. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. Queens is good. Queens is very good. We love Queens. We love all the boroughs. Even that one.
Yeah, that one.
You know.
We know it.
Y'all know.
Exactly.
Anyway, we're talking about Nas, okay? He was born Nasir Jones.
Yes.
In Brooklyn.
Right.
But he didn't really grow up in Brooklyn.
Uh-huh.
He grew up in Queensbridge.
The bridge. The bridge.
The largest housing projects in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Of the United States of America.
Mm-hmm. We got to thank Frank Dello.
And
for that.
It always made me laugh hearing about Queensbridge because I was like, I wonder why they named it that. Maybe it's in Queens. Maybe it's right next to a bridge.
Right by it. By the 59th Street Bridge. Right around.
Why do they call it the 59th Street Bridge?
Because that's right at 59th Street.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. I never would have guessed that.
Genius.
Very
New
creative names in the city of New York.
Oh, yeah.
So he grew up in the Queensbridge projects.
Yes.
And Queensbridge is a mecca of rap music.
There's countless of people that come out of Queensbridge. I mean, starting with like the original days of hip hop, you have MC Shan and Marley Marl, you have Roxanne Shante. You got so many people coming out of there that it's just insane. And it's not just the 80s. It's like every generation had somebody from Queensbridge coming out of there. So I just feel like Nas was destined to be a rapper. If you want to be a really great rapper, I don't think there's a better place to be than where Nas was born, which is Brooklyn. No, just kidding. Than Queensbridge.
Yeah. And it's like, well, okay, so before we even get into, like, Queensbridge itself, I want to say, so his dad Oludara was a musician.
Yes.
Well, is a musician. He's still alive.
Still alive, still rocking music, some really good music. Nas is actually Nasir bin Oludara Jones, which is, like, basically son of Oludara Jones.
Yeah, Jones.
Yeah, I believe his real name is Charlie. I think it's Charlie.
Charlie Brown?
No, Charlie Jones.
Oh,
this is his cousin Charlie from down the way.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah. My bad.
We name all the kids Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie 1, Charlie 2.
Exactly, Charlie Smith.
Charlie Sheen. Okay, so we're already off to a racing start. You know what I mean?
This is why they love us in the comments.
At least one person likes us. Yeah. So Nas's dad, he was a musician, like we were saying. That was his job. Like he was always out touring, and he was always bringing in like instruments from all over the world.
Yeah.
Like he had keyboards, he had like African percussion, he had he played the trumpet a lot.
Yeah.
Right? And Nas and his brother, jungle.
Yes.
They used to always be fucking around with the instruments.
Yeah.
So that was just always something that was around. So they were always, in a musical family.
Absolutely.
And then, it's funny because Nas was born in 73.
Yeah.
And hip-hop wasn't really a thing so much then.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what year Nas was born, okay? Because they say he's 49 right now. And he said he was born the same year as hip-hop, which should be 1974. And you know what I mean? I'm just confused. He's in his late
Close
40s.
enough.
Exactly. He's in his late 40s.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hip hop wasn't a thing when he was born.
Right.
But they were on their way.
But he kind of came up with it.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's what's cool about it is because so not only is his dad a musician, he was always exposed to music, but then he's in this place where there's so many fucking people. I mean, Queensbridge was like 10,000 people in the fucking projects. That's bigger than a lot of small towns in America.
Absolutely.
And you're talking about like 4 city blocks.
Yes.
Like, it's fucking insane.
It really is. It really is. That's so crazy. I don't think we get to really know a lot, but in Nas's dad's own words, Nas is a bit of a child prodigy. He said Nas used to pick up any instrument and know how to play it really well.
Yeah.
And used to be, as a little kid, 6 years old, out playing like the horn really well.
I heard his dad say he was playing it when he was 2.
That's insane.
Which is fucking crazy.
Yeah. So we're talking about a real artist here.
Yeah. And then this was the story I just heard. I think it was his dad that said this. He made a joke about he was playing the trumpet so much his lip kind of like...
Yes. He started to get lazy.
Yeah, he got like a lazy lip and his dad made a joke about it and then he like never wanted to play the trumpet again.
That must have been some joke. And just by his father's cadence in the voice, I could see that joke really... hurting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He was like, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore.
With your big ass lips. It's probably something like that.
I'm never touching the trumpet again.
Exactly.
Thanks, Dad. But
you gotta kill your kid's ambition. That's the way you do it.
That's step number 1.
That's how they learn, okay?
That's how they learn to not give a fuck about what people say.
Exactly.
Even your own family.
That's right.
Even your blood. Okay?
Oh, man. I'm joking for those of you who are going to come for me.
No, we don't make any jokes on this podcast.
We're
100% serious at all times.
All the time.
100%.
All news, all the time. Wait, that's somebody else's slogan. Sorry.
Fair and unbalanced.
You give us 60 minutes, we'll give you... Wait. That's somebody else's slogan. Sorry.
Oh shit! You didn't come up with that just now?
No, I was about to.
Okay. TikTok. What was the last thing we said about Nas? What is this episode about?
Him being an artist, him playing at 2 years old.
Yeah.
Go from there.
Yeah. So he was always into music, and he was just always like really fucking smart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even as like a little kid, they were saying people were just like drawn to him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so he was always into music and music was always in around. And it was interesting. Like he was saying, I saw in an interview, like, they're living in this place where there's just violence everywhere. Mm-hmm. Right. And there's music everywhere as well. And like where he was at, it was, I mean, it's not really funny, but the way he said, he's like, yeah, we had shit that like other people didn't have, like, furniture.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck.
Exactly. Food.
Yeah.
Like,
a television.
Mm-hmm. Color TV.
Color TV.
And Nas was born in the 70s. It's like, it's like, it's so interesting that that's how it went down, But yeah, unfortunately, he grew up around a lot of poverty. Which is crazy. In the bridge. The bridge. I love that song, okay? And I love the counteraction to it. The bridge is over. The bridge is over. I love them both.
Maybe we do a Queensbridge podcast one day.
We should. I would love to talk about Marley Marl. Like, they just interviewed him on some Red Bull Academy thing. Like, he hasn't been forgotten about, which is amazing. Academy. Yeah. They do some kind of music. It's like a Red Bull Music Academy. I guess some type of music thing sponsored by the company, the actual company Red Bull.
Yeah.
And they interview different artists, who have definitely gotten to legend status.
Oh, shit. How did I not know about? I've never heard about that.
That's crazy.
Wow. Okay. I'll look into that. But
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he was a prodigy. Nas is a prodigy.
Yeah.
Right? By all accounts.
Mm-hmm. And
this was something, I mean, I remember bringing this up when we did the Wu-Tang podcast. There was one time when he was coming up where he met RZA, and RZA said, you gotta be rapping like every day for at least 10 years to be like a master.
Yeah.
And he said he met Nas when he was like 16 and he was already a master.
Yeah.
And I'm just like doing the math in my head. I'm like, so he's been doing this shit since he was like 6?
Yeah, basically.
Like, what?
Yeah, because his dad was saying that around 12, he was really sounding good.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's crazy because for an adult to say that, because that's not his dad's kind of music, you know,
Right.
and hip hop it took a while for the generation that came before the first hip hoppers to actually accept it as a musical art form.
Yeah, yeah.
So for his father to actually listen to his lyricism and be like, man, he's really good. Like, he's great.
Yeah.
You know, that's amazing. You know?
Yeah, you know, and that just proves, you know, how good he was. And apparently everybody around him knew how good he was. His brother was saying that, like, you know, back in the day, they'd just be in the hallway and he'd be like freestyle and they just like close their eyes and just like see everything that he was saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he was like nervous at first to like perform in front of other people.
Yeah.
Like he just wanted to do it with like his friends, you know what I mean? He wasn't necessarily like all like, I'm gonna be the biggest rapper ever. Like I'm gonna be, you know, I'm gonna come out of here. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Because his mom was like very much like, you got to go to school.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like very much like if you're not going to school, like it's nothing good is going to happen because you're in that environment. It's like if you're not going to school, you're going to be selling drugs. You're going to end up dead.
Yeah, and that's the generation she was from. Like, and especially around that time, late 80s or something like that. If you're doing something like gaming or rapping, it's just like, and your young son is doing that, you're like on your knees praying that he finds a straight path. You know,
Right.
It's not like now.
Right. But when he decided that he really wanted to get into music, he did drop out of school, and it basically broke his mom's heart.
Yeah, they argued for a while, and he was adamant about not going back to school, which I can see because I know a lot of kids who went to New York City high schools that, let's say you didn't go to a specialized high school, you went to a quote-unquote bad school, and everybody would talk about, this is where I used to have to run, this is where the bullies used to chase me, this is where this and that happened, and I know a couple of people who stopped going to school just because the environment was just it takes too much mental energy just to get there.
Right.
And then when you're in there and inside the school is a crazy environment as well. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? You're talking about New York City. So many distractions on the way to school.
Right. And if you live in the projects, it's like you're going from crazy environment to crazy environment.
Yeah.
And if you're somebody that has the just the natural talent that he had, you're like, I want to put all my energy into this.
Yeah.
Like, why am I going to go and sit in this fucking building where I got to ask the lady if I can go to the bathroom?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, nah,
Right.
I'm not doing that.
Correct.
So, yeah, so he dropped out of school and he basically just ended up kind of self-teaching himself. Like, he just read, like, everything
Yeah,
that he possibly
doctors,
could.
books, all types of books. I mean, things on like anatomy, and you could tell because it comes out in his artwork. Right?
100%.
Nas, the Miles Davis of rap. That's what we're gonna call him.
You French now?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
What about
shit.
that?
Okay. Yeah, it's funny because, yeah, you can really tell in his lyrical style that the dude reads a lot. It's funny, like, we just did Doors podcast.
Yeah.
And, you know, Jim Morrison and Nas, their backgrounds are so different, where they came from and all this shit. But you could tell just by the level of poetry that both of them were at, that both of them had to just be reading all the fucking time.
Right.
Like, there's only, in order to put out words of that level, you have to be taking in words of that level.
Absolutely.
And he clearly was just reading everything, you know? So then obviously his vocabulary just increased exponentially.
Yeah, yeah. So he's into the studio life. He's really trying to get that done. We really have to mention this story about his friend William, who was his best friend. Yep, and the two of them were like a Run DMC. They were going to make it together. And
Will was going to be on the turntables.
On the turntable, because that's what you need. 2 turntables and a mic.
Microphone.
Right? And so Nas is chilling in some apartment, and Will is outside with Nas's brother Jungle, and something happens. Somebody rolls up on them. They think it's a robbery. The guy has a gun, and Will ends up getting shot in the back 3 times. And he dies right there. We have to mention Ill Will because Nas mentions Ill Will
And
all the
Jungle
time.
got shot too.
Yeah, Jungle gets shot in the leg also, and he survives.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Shout out to the Bravehearts, Jungle and all of them and the crew. Whatchamacallit.
Shout out to Mel Gibson.
Exactly.
oh, my bad.
You know rap. You know they named themselves the Bravehearts right after that movie. Okay?
Like, let's go.
Exactly. Yeah, so Will dies, and you have to mention him because Nas mentions him. From the time you know Nas, you know Ill Will. Like,
yeah.
You know, you just do. So shout out and rest in peace to Ill Will. Sorry that we never got to know you. But with that just catapults Nas's focus. Like,
right.
He's got a rap now.
Right. And it's interesting because, like, I saw, like, interviews with, like, his cousins and his family members, and they were like, when Will died, they were like, one of two things is going to happen. Mm-hmm. Either Nas is going to go off the deep end and he's going to be dead soon and just not give a fuck about anything anymore, or he's just going to double down on the art, which clearly is what he did, or we wouldn't be talking about him right now.
Exactly. And I know, I believe it was his grandmother or something that said that what really saves a lot of kids in that environment is the family structure. So it doesn't really matter if, like, your parents divorced young, like his did, and stuff like that. If you know, like, who plays what role, who does what, if you know your parents care about whether you're in school or not, where are you today, did you go do this, is that, then you're able to flourish, I think. And that was a gift that was given to Nas, I think, you know. Yeah,
absolutely. Because, I mean, he knew both of his parents. So that's a big deal right there. Especially you're talking about, he told a story once, I mean, like, he was hanging out with his friend, and then his friend's mom just died of a heroin overdose. And they're just watching his friend's mom come out in a body bag, and he's just like, this is fucked. Like, why does this have to happen? But yeah, no, he was pretty fortunate in that respect that he had... I mean, his parents split up when he was 12, 13, but he knew both of them.
Exactly.
And they were around while he was growing up. You know what I mean? So that definitely is important to give, you know, a little bit of structure. But yeah, so he really doubles down on rap. And he hooks up with this producer, Large Professor.
He hits the studio... And he's in there, and we've got to mention these producers, okay? Because Large Professor wasn't just a producer. He had his own group called Main Source, and they have music out. If you're a real hip-hop, like, you know, if you really want to get into the history of it, Main Source was a good group, and they did have great music. And, like, I will mention all the other producers coming up, but every single one of those producers on Nas's first album had their own group with Fire Records as well.
And this is a cool story that I heard when we were looking up things for this. So apparently Large Professor was doing something with Eric B. and Rakim. And, like, during the times where they were, like, go out of the studio, he would, like, rush Nas in to try to, like, record during their studio time. And apparently Rakim came in one day.
Yes, and saw Nas.
And Large Professor was like, yo, you gotta check out this kid, like, listen to this verse. And Rakim would just listen to his, like, respect or fucking whatever. He was just like, you got something here, like, don't stop.
Don't stop.
That must have been so amazing for him.
Nas said it was like a dream.
Yeah.
Because when you rate your MCs, even back in that time, I feel like it was Rakim and then there was Nas. Nas was like the second coming of Rakim.
Yeah, I can see that, because, I mean, I wasn't around at that time, but I've always listened to Rakim, and I always thought, like, he was just so much better than everyone else at the time, right? Like, just his style was just crazy. Just, like, the way that he, like, structured his rhymes and shit. And I know that Nas is probably thinking that, too. So for him to hear that from him must have been just, like, a crazy boost of, like, okay, like, this is really what I need to do.
Exactly.
Like, I already thought this is what I had to do, but now it's for sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So he gets in the studio. It's getting to a point where I think his mom it got sick.
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah. But he goes to he starts making the music, and he starts battling, and he's deciding how hard he wants to go, and he actually goes to MC Serge, who's another producer, and I'm just gonna call him what it is, a gatekeeper. MC Serge is definitely a gatekeeper, so he goes to MC Serge, who was around the studio already, you know, and they're in Queensbridge, and the whole school of rappers are pretty much around at the same time. So you've got people probably like Capone and Noriega in the studio, Kwamega, Mobb Deep, because we're figuring it's all the elite coming up. So MC Serge is the one who really puts him on, like opens the door. And MC Serge had his own group called Third Base, and they are essential to hip hop as well. And then Nas gets a whole bunch of fire producers on his album. He gets fucking DJ Premier. Shout out to Brooklyn again. From Gangstar. I can't believe it. He gets Q-Tip,
Q-Tip.
from A Tribe Called Quest. Shout out to Queens. And he gets Pete Rock, who also is a great producer. Had a group called Pete Rock and CL Smooth. And shout out to Mount Vernon. I think that's where Pete Rock is from. But all those producers, in their own rights, had their own fire beats for their own groups.
Yeah.
So once they came together for Nas's album...
Well, that's what they were saying. They were like, that this kid was a prodigy to bring all these people together on one album.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the song that actually made him pop was with Large Professor's group, right? What was the name of the song? Something about a barbecue?
Yeah. I thought it was Back to the Grill Again, but it's some other song about a barbecue, and I don't remember what it is, but I know Back to the Grill Again is definitely one of the remixes that Nas was on.
Yeah, well, he just came in with this verse, right? And sometimes it's like all you need is one verse.
Yeah.
It's like
all you need is one mic.
One mic. It's funny because, like, you could be doing something for so long and then you could just have one thing that all of a sudden puts you over the top. And that was kind of like this verse that he had on this track where everybody heard it and was just like, holy shit, who is this kid? He's 17? What the fuck? This guy is like the chosen one. This guy's a fucking prodigy. Like, he's gonna be next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People were like already saying that just off that verse.
Yeah.
So then that's when all these producers started coming around because they kind of heard of him like through the grapevine, and from that, they were kind of like, okay, like I'll work with this guy.
Right. I believe the verse was when he was 12. He went to hell for snuffing Jesus. Who wants to snuff Jesus? Some people want to snuff Jesus. We don't like that name.
Snuffin' Jesus could be like a metal band name.
Oh man, that's true. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But okay, yeah. So he's in the studio with all these producers, and he's working on this album that I don't know if this was always the working title, but it's Illmatic, which is considered to be one of, if not the greatest rap albums of all time.
Absolutely, didn't have too much commercial success, but in the hood, we loved it.
Well, that's something that we could talk about because this came out in '94, and another big album came out in '94.
Ready to Die.
Right, and Illmatic, all the people that were like into rap music and like lyricism were like, this is next level shit. Like, this is fucking amazing. And it didn't sell to the extent that you would expect something to sell when the hype is so big around it.
Right.
And it got like 5 mics in the Source and shit.
Absolutely, and that was the big deal because there were pretty much 2 magazines that were running things at that time. It was Vibe magazine, ran by Quincy Jones, and The Source, ran by Benzino, and they would credit you with mics. And that was like the first album to ever get 5 mics because The Source wasn't giving 5 mics to nobody.
Unless your name was Nas.
Right?
But Ready to Die came out by Biggie and had like some more commercial songs on it. So that ended up selling more. And that kind of affect the way that Nas goes forward after Illmatic a little bit because he kind of sees how that works.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, like clearly I have like the torch or whatever. Like everybody knows that I'm fucking an amazing rapper, but I need to make the world know in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So he comes out with It Was Written.
But I don't want to go straight to it yet because I want to talk more about Illmatic.
Yeah. Illmatic was crazy. That was some album. It was like a breath of fresh air. People really needed all that consciousness and lyricism, especially here in New York. There was just 2 different types of rap. You was either partying a lot or you really gangstering a lot, or you're just really talking about conscious stuff.
Right.
And around the mid 90s, that's when like the conscious stream really like blew up, and Nas was pretty much at the helm for that.
Well, he was, because the thing is just like his lyrical prowess was so expert that he really like he was. I was seeing interviews with him, and he's like, this is, like, that album is, like, the side of America that people don't want to talk about, right? Because that's what he lived. Like, he wasn't just making this shit up.
Right.
Like, this is the shit that he was actually living, and, he was actually telling the story. Yeah. Because, there's, all the time you go on, 2 people shot and killed here, 2 people shot and killed here. You don't hear the fucking story about it. It's just a statistic. But when you're putting that onto a record and you're having people listen to it, you're like, this is what's actually happening. This isn't just the end result. This is everything that's going into it. This is the mindset. This is what everybody's doing. Like, this is this is the actual like psychology almost of a person in this situation.
Yeah, I love the way he describes things. You know, one song he's particularly talking about some young kid who's just like 9 years old who's got a gun and talking about how rough it is out here, and he's talking to the shorty or whatever, and you know, he says, and then I rose and wiped the blunt's ashes from my clothes. Like, it's like little things like that, like, you know, that make the picture so vivid.
Yeah, just the little details and shit. Yeah, and there's just things. I mean, I know this was a hook. This was AZ, but like I think about this in my head all the time. Life's a bitch and then you die. That's why we get high, because you never know when you're gonna go. And it's like, that's very real for them, but that's real for everybody in life. You really don't know when you're gonna go ever. So that's just like, there's certain lines from, I mean, that album and, you know, many Nas songs that sometimes will just pop up in my head. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh fuck, where did that come from?
Yeah. I mean, that album was insane. I feel like pretty much every track on that album was amazing, and people loved his mixtape style freestyle and stuff. They first threw Hang Time at us, which got too much play on TV. Like, it was out of control. But I mean, I feel like One Love was like the main one on the album that really did everything for him, and it had like 4 remixes, which was like insane. And that's when people used to do stuff like that, and then I think that one was huge. And then after that, I don't know why it didn't get super commercial success, but at that time, rap was going for a turning point. You had the West Coast, and it was all about partying and drinking, and Biggie and them were all about just getting money. It wasn't about being smart anymore.
Well, I think that is why it wasn't. You know, because he wasn't. I mean, if you listen to like the gold, like whatever, 91 to 94, like that age of like the biggest rap albums, like I would say Illmatic is probably the realest. Like, he's not trying to necessarily portray something other than what it is. Right. Whereas like Ready to Die, like, there is some real parts of that album. I mean, Biggie's talking like it's an everyday struggle. That he literally ends the album with him killing himself. Yeah. Like, he's not necessarily glamorizing everything the whole time, but then there are certain songs where he's like, I made this song to party. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I made this to be a hit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Obviously, it had different formulas, because Nas was doing underground beats, and Big was just taking popular songs and rapping over them, so you could tell.
Yeah, but I do want to say the beats on Illmatic are fucking wild.
Insane. Still to this day, they give you that hair raising, that feel where they go through you. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it really sounds like some underground shit. Like, it sounds like some shit that like you almost shouldn't be able to hear right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially like, because, you know, you're from New York. Yeah. I was from fucking Florida, and I'm listening to this shit. I'm like, yo, this sounds. I feel like this sounds like how New York feels.
Yes, yes.
You know what I mean?
Nas and a lot of others, but Nas in particular, a lot of people that come out of Queensbridge too, Mobb Deep, their beats sound like New York. Yeah. And I always felt that, even while, you know, being a young person that didn't even think about New York like that. I was just home, you know, but their beats felt like they gave me visions of buildings, guys hanging outside like they did.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So, but again, I mean, we just said he had so many fire producers on the album. It's like, well, it kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, there's a reason why it's one of the most legendary rap albums ever. Yeah,
absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
And just the storytelling is so vivid.
Yeah, because and then he does It Was Written right after. Yeah. So that was the follow-up, and that became #1 album in the country. Yeah. Which is insane. Yeah. For like 4 weeks.
And it was a little bit of a conscious effort by him to like, okay, like, I've already cemented myself as a crazy MC. Like, I need to make some more money.
Yeah, he's like, the streets already love me.
Right. He's like, no. Well, that's the thing that's really interesting, and, you know, this will come up more as we talk about, you know, more of his discography. But it's like, Illmatic was like, he became, in the rap community, it's like huge, like, you're fucking amazing. But, you know, to the mainstream, not so much, didn't really like break through. So he might have been really known in certain circles, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has all this money coming in. Exactly. There's a big difference between being popular with people and being popular in the industry.
Absolutely. You know? I'm going to take a quote out of Belly, which Nas starred in, what DMX's character said to Nas's character. Shorty can't eat no books. Okay?
So Nas is like, I need some hooks.
Exactly.
On the next album. Fuck. Yeah, so the next album, it was written, he purposely made a few songs to be hits.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he got Lauryn Hill on the track, right?
Yeah. Fire. fire truck.
If I rule the world.
Imagine that.
You know, and that song went huge. And
Uh-huh.
that song, the album went multiple times platinum, almost not only because of the success of that song, but kind of on the back of that song.
Yeah.
Because it became a huge single.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that kind of, you know, accomplished what he was trying to do as far as that.
Yeah, he started changing up things, you know, like the video for Street Dreams he mirrored after Casino. And he even got an actor from Casino to be in the video. Like, he's dressed as Robert De Niro. It's just hilarious. But that video's hilarious. And it's got some great songs on that album as well. And right about this time, he's also doing a collaboration album with Foxy Brown and AZ, which is The Firm. That's fire as well. Pretty much every track.
Shout out.
Shout out. I was going to say shout out to Brooklyn, but it's only Foxy from Brooklyn and AZ.
Shout out to the 5 boroughs.
Exactly.
Why do we gotta be fighting with each other?
No, no, no. Gangs of New York.
Can't we all just get along?
It's the Warriors all over again.
Yeah, we live in what was it? What was it called in Gangs in New York? 5 Points.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 Points. Shout out to 5 Points.
I'm with Bill the Barber.
The butcher.
The butcher, the
Yeah,
butcher.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The baker, the candlestick maker.
But yeah. So the second album brings him to more commercial success, and this is a turbulent time in hip hop history when that album comes out. Because so it's interesting. So this was during the whole East Coast West Coast thing, and Tupac mentioned Nas in a song
Yeah.
for like no fucking reason.
The left fieldness of this time and era.
And literally, like, they were at a party, and like I think it was in Bryant Park, they said, and Nas saw Tupac, and he was just like, "What's going on, man? Like,
Yeah.
I never made a fucking song about you, bro. Like, what is this?" And apparently, they talked it out. He was like, "My bad. Like, you're my fucking brother. I'll take you out of the song. Like, blah blah blah. Come meet me in Vegas next week."
Oh my God.
Literally, he was like, "Come meet me in Vegas. I'm gonna be there in a few days."
Yeah.
And Tupac never left Vegas.
Right. He passes away at that time, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But that's that whole story that you just told. For those of us who remember Tupac, that's how he was. It's like 1 minute is this, next minute is that, and you're just exhausted.
Well, you know, didn't really consciously remember this time, but I feel like the vibe I get looking back at Tupac and like the stories, I feel like he's more of a shoot first, ask questions later kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he'll just take shots at someone in a song like for not really a reason, and then he'll see him and be like, "Oh shit, you're right. I shouldn't have done that." You know
It's
what I
all
mean?
love, man. Yeah.
But he was a passionate guy. You know what I mean? We'll do an episode on him at some point.
Absolutely, we got to. Tupac, another person from New York.
Also Baltimore? Or do we not talk about that?
We don't talk about that.
Oh,
okay?
we don't talk about that.
Okay.
What's new in Baltimore anyway? Yeah, so
Second album, and then we're moving along. We're creeping into the late 90s. The third album.
And this is after Biggie died also.
Yes.
Because that wasn't
dies.
long after Tupac. I'm sure you already kind of knew that. But so yeah, the two of them, that was a fucking crazy time in hip hop.
Yeah.
And Nas kind of like, I mean, if you're Nas at that time, you got to be like, shit, like, am I next? You know what I mean?
They all thought they were next.
But especially, I mean, if you're...
Yes, if
you know what I mean?
All the top tier rappers thought they were next.
How could you not?
Making If I Die songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all did. And it was like almost exhausting too with that as well. It's like, stop it, Eminem. Stop it, Fat Joe. You're not gonna die. You too, Jay-Z. He's another one.
Well, we'll get to him.
Jay-Z.
We'll get to him. He'll be making his appearance shortly. But yeah, so after it was written, now he went from just like acclaim from all the rappers and like the community and the culture to like big time like money. Mm-hmm. And then the albums that he drops after that obviously is a bit of a change in the lyrical content and just kind of the style.
Yeah.
But I want to say, so like it's easy to be like, oh, what, you forgot where you came from, blah blah blah. No. Like, because you gotta think about it like this. Like, if you're somebody like him that came from that situation, and you on just your own talent and your own skills and your own ambition, you rise up to that level, you might start thinking, like, maybe I am the fucking shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, like, you know, you might have a little bit of ego, as people do.
Yeah.
But then also, now you actually have money.
Yeah.
So you have a whole different life.
Exactly.
So the music is not going to be the same.
No, it's not going to be the same. I didn't like the Nostradamus album. At that time, my thoughts were, somebody need to go back to the drawing board. For sure. I didn't like Shorty, say, what's your price? If you back it up, you can hold my ice. I did not like that one, but I wasn't in the club in that one, but everybody who was older that was going to the clubs loved that one in the clubs. I mean, he had his brother and his brother's crew on that album as well. Bravehearts did appear there as well. To me, it wasn't Nas that we knew. And you know me. You know me.
Don't get too big on me.
Don't you dare.
Well, he was getting big.
But he was getting big.
But it's funny how that works, because people could tell that he was switching up a little bit, and people weren't really happy about it. So it's like, kind of like, I'm not going to say he was falling off, but it's like he clearly wasn't at like the peak of his abilities.
Yeah.
And there was this other rapper from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
From the Marcy Projects.
Yes.
Who kind of saw that as an opportunity.
Yes, he did. God.
Which, look, I mean, honestly, I got to give him credit for seeing the opportunity and going for it. I got to give him some credit and be like, look, like, if we're talking about top dog, you're like, Nas was top dog.
Yeah. And
he's slipping a little bit. This is my chance.
Yeah.
And he went for it.
He went for it.
We're talking about Jay-Z, if you don't know.
We're talking about Sean Carter, a.k.a. Jigga Man, a.k.a. Jehovah, a.k.a. Jay-Z. All right, so I feel like I'm just going to sum up the end of it, and we're going to get into the deep thicket of it.
Wait, we're going to go back to front?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like the genuine New York consensus was that it was very left field of Jay-Z to do this. And, like, usually, like, how Big came up, Big didn't have to shit on anybody.
Because he was so good.
He just rapped. Exactly.
So good.
And I feel like that was an issue with Jay-Z, because we had so many kings of New York at that time. You know, we had Prodigy, we had Nas, we had Big, we had so many people that it was hard for Jay-Z to really be the standout person. So I feel like that's why he did it that way, because there was no other way for him to really shine but that he had to actually write Dear Summer, because he felt like New York wasn't showing him love, and he made so many summer songs for New York.
Right.
So
like there was too much competition.
Yeah, so he had to do something really, really crazy, and I feel like for New York that was too crazy. It was too left field, and certain things that he said in the song was too scummy even for New York. You know?
Like what?
Like, I slept with your baby's moms and busted on your kid's baby seat. Like, come on, dude. Even Jay's own mother was like, don't do that.
Like, what?
You don't do that.
Yeah.
Like,
well, there's a few things I was thinking about this when I was, thinking. So, first of all, do you think it has anything to do with the Queens versus Brooklyn aspects?
Somewhat. I mean, those are big projects in Queensbridge, and Jay is from huge projects. Marcy is big. Like, when you take the bus through it, I'm intimidated.
Yeah.
Even in the 2000s, I'm like scared.
Yeah.
Because it's huge. You just feel like,
you're just looking up like, fuck, and you feel trapped, right?
Yes, you do. So I think it was one of those things. Even on like Mobb Deep songs, I think Prodigy said one thing about going to see some shorty that lived in Marcy's project, and Jay-Z was upset. He was like, oh, you trying to talk shit about us?
Yeah,
he thought it was a jab at them.
Right.
And if you don't know Jay-Z, like, as a rapper, he's an artist, so he's a sensitive guy.
That's definitely true.
He doesn't, certain things he doesn't like, you know what I mean? And he feels away a lot of times, so I can see him getting upset. Yeah, and I do think it was like a Queens, Brooklyn kind of thing, and it's just a top dog kind of thing. Biggie's gone.
Right.
And somebody's got to be the top. And
right.
How else do you do it?
I always love when we do New York shit, because I love hearing your perspective on it, because you were here.
Yeah.
And I was nowhere near here. Because in my head, I always thought that Biggie was just top dog when he was alive, right?
Yeah.
Like it was Biggie and then everybody else.
Yeah.
In my head, and then once Biggie left, it's like there's a power void.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it's like it's almost like when a fucking country gets overthrown. like a dictator gets overthrown. Now there's a bunch of infighting. It's like, well, who's going to be on the top now?
Right.
That's almost what I saw it as after Big died. It's
Yeah.
like, well, now everybody's like, well, fuck, well, what's the pecking order now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
Jay's like, I think the pecking order is that I'm the best.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I can't be mad at him. You can be mad at him for certain things that he said in the song, but for him wanting to do that, I'm like, he had the ambition to do it. I can't really hate on him for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
absolutely.
it is kind of left field, right?
It definitely is it was very left field, and it was just like, ugh. So, you know, in everybody's mind, I think generally, I feel like people were like, Nas better dust off that vampire coffin and pop the F up and do something about it.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, he came out with Ether. They actually debuted it on the radio.
Well, we should say the song that started it was Takeover. We didn't even say that yet.
Yeah, and he does this song at Summer Jam. And he runs down a gamut of MCs who he wants to destroy, Prodigy included. And I don't forgive you for that, Jay-Z. No, just kidding. He just, like, you know, he talks about Nas. He talks about all the top 5 rappers.
Because he was trying to be top dog.
Exactly.
He was trying to put himself up there.
And he was hitting below the belt, talking about babies, moms, pulling out young pictures of you in ballet class. You know what I'm saying? And it was just out of control. And people were just like, look, we don't know if we really like you or not. Let's see what Nas had to say about this, because we knew him longer, and we know you were a fan of Nas.
Yeah.
Trying to get on, call it Nas's House. There's documentary on Nas's album.
Oh, so it's funny. There's a few things that I want to say about that. So it's interesting because I always liked the song Takeover more than I liked the song Ether for one reason, and that was the beat.
You see, I hated it for that reason.
Because the beat sampled 5 to 1 by The Doors.
Exactly.
And like we said in our last episode, The Doors were the first band that I was ever a fan of. And at the time when I was discovering all this shit, I was just getting into rap music.
Yeah.
So when I heard that song, I was like, oh shit, like rappers know about The Doors too? And it made me really excited.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting because now I didn't even really see it in the context of the beef as I was like learning all this shit, because this was after it already happened when I'm like learning all this shit.
Right.
So I was just like, oh, this song is fire. And they got Jim screaming and then Jay-Z's talking his shit.
Yeah.
And then now I see it in the context. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
This is kind of wild.
All right. And you look over at me and I'm like, I hate this.
You're like, you like that song?
You don't like that song. I hated that song, one, because I didn't like the authenticity of the sampling. I felt like the Doors weren't being sampled that much in hip hop, so to pull them out of nowhere felt like, to me, I got to go through these albums and find the best sample I could find. That's what it felt like.
Is that a problem, though?
Yeah, when you're not really like connected to the music you're sampling, I feel like that's an issue.
Well, I guess we could talk about that because Kanye produced that. Kanye produced that, so that we could go into a whole other thing about that, because I don't know. I mean, Kanye might fuck with the Doors.
But I don't know.
I really don't know.
I doubt it. I'm sorry, yeah, but I doubt it, because he says a lot of words in his raps and stuff like that, and he doesn't even know what they mean. So, and he'll tell you that. So that's why I'm just like, I don't know for sure. And that's what it felt like. It's like, I just gotta, it felt like a formula as opposed to something really connected to you. And that's just how it felt. And I'm in Brooklyn right now. We're technically not allowed to diss Brooklyn people when you're outside of Brooklyn. So I'm safe.
Yeah.
Just let
if we were like 10 blocks that way, we couldn't do it.
We couldn't do it, okay? We'd be in Queens, all right? So this is actually love coming from me to Jay-Z. Yeah, I was kind of annoyed at the authenticity of it, and then I just felt like Jay-Z was doing exactly what he was doing. He was doing like kind of like a desperate grab for the crown, and it felt like that because we were all in the mix of it and we were here. We knew exactly what it was. So we, as I feel like most New Yorkers, couldn't wait for Nas to say something and do something about this.
And that's the thing that's funny, is because Nas, and I respect this mindset as well. He was just like, why would I respond to that? He was like, who the fuck? This guy used to be all up on my shit. Now he's trying to make a name for himself. I'm not going to boost you up by putting you in a song. And he was like, I'm not going to respond. I'm not, why? And like everyone around him basically is like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? Like, tear his ass up. And I think eventually it was his brother that really convinced him to do it.
Yeah, it was Jungle.
And he was just like, all right. And I was literally listening to that track, Ether, on the way here just now when I was coming back from the Venezuelan restaurant, and it's so funny because it's like now when I think of it now, I have so much more respect for that song just as like a performer because not only is it crazy like rhymes, but also the I will not lose.
Yeah.
I just think about that. I'm like, that's a fire thing to do with a crowd. Like that is some hype shit. You know what I mean? And that gets me pumped up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is kind of a different level.
Yeah, exactly.
Of song. Like this is clearly a better song. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. That was the greatest part about it, and it wasn't just because you felt his emotion. Yeah. You know, and he was literally connected. Like you could tell the rap was everything for him. And that's all that he was. Like, even if you see him now, right? Yeah, he's got a restaurant. But what does he do? Who is he? He's a rapper. Yes.
He doesn't own a clothing brand. Right. He's not in movie. Well, he's not really much of an actor. He doesn't act a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
That's who he is. And we felt that. Like, and, you know, Angie Martinez put it up on the radio, and there was the poll, and I felt like I didn't even have to, I never called radio stations. And I like, everybody was like, you don't even have to call in. Like, you know what I mean? We know this song.
Everybody knows.
This one's going to murder it.
Yeah. And also, I mean, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but also this was a time like, Nas' mom had fucking cancer, and like, him and his what was her name? Who had his daughter? Carmen, and they were broken up, and then Jay-Z talked about. So it wasn't only a rap thing. Like there was a lot going on in his life right now, and a lot of emotions to potentially put into the music. Yeah, and you can kind of feel that during this time, and like in his music, there's so much passion going into it. Yeah, it's more than just like, I'm gonna do this to boost myself up.
Right, yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that he was saying that was on our minds. You know, I feel like for like 4 or 5 songs, Jay-Z started them off with a Biggie rhyme, and Biggie had just died, and it was like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. And then Nas was like, how much of Biggie's rhymes is gonna come? And that everybody was just like, somebody said it, you know. And Jay-Z even had to come back with another song, was just like, I'm just bigging up my brother, bigging up my people, and we get it too. But at the same time, it's like, no, like we heard those rhymes already. Yeah, they're not yours.
Yeah, and at a certain point, it's just like the track. It's just there's just better rhymes. It's like you did what you could do, but you didn't beat him. Yeah, Nas won. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
yeah, and you brought Jim into this. How the fuck dare you?
Yeah, don't bring Mr. Morrison into this.
Don't bring Jim, and don't bring Zeppelin into any. I will always hate those songs. I don't care how good they are.
What, the one with Diddy where he had Jimmy Page on it?
Yeah. If you sample Zeppelin and you sample The Doors, that's an automatic hate from me.
Damn, I'm not going to show you those beats I've been working on.
Oh, no.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so after that, it's clearly like, Nas is king of New York, right? He regained the throne.
He did, absolutely.
Right? And then now also, I mean, Jay-Z kind of lit a fire under him because we were saying like he was kind of falling off a little bit because his shit was getting a little more commercial. Yeah. But after that, he was like just going back to what he was doing, really. He was like, nah, like I'm going to give the people what they want from me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think this is around the time that his mom died as well.
Yeah, it was around then. His mom passes away from breast cancer. Rest in peace to Anna Jones. And he needed to get away from it all. So he needed to travel, so he goes to Jamaica. And he bucks up with Junior Gong.
Hey.
Damian Marley, who, out of all the Marley kids, I feel is his dad. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the fire is in Junior Gong. And that album, Distant Relatives or Distant Cousins?
Distant Relatives. And this is actually, now that we're talking about, this is actually the first thing that we're talking about that I remember happening. Because I remember when that came out, I was listening to that all the time.
Fire album.
Yeah, I was like, this is fucking amazing.
Hell yeah.
And I didn't really even know, I didn't really even know Nas too much at the time, but that had just came out, and I was like, this is fucking great. And that was part of what made me look into Nas more, was that album.
Okay.
You know? But yeah, so that album's fucking great. And then he just keeps putting shit out. Yeah. He keeps doing what he does. I mean, we're definitely missing albums here, though.
Yeah, I mean, well, Stillmatic is the one that came out.
That's the one that had Ether on it.
Yes. Yeah, that was the one. Before, after it was written, it was Nostradamus.
And I Am, right? Didn't those two came out the same year, I think.
Not Nostradamus. Yeah, yes, it was on that. Yeah, I didn't necessarily like that song either. I liked it. It was good because he had a kind of Slick Rick style that he was doing for that particular song. And I thought that was cool because he was even trying to do a fake accent, like Slick Rick's accent. But yeah, what am I talking about? I really liked that song. I did. Because he was like, save the music, y'all.
Don't get too big on us.
Yeah. There's the Hip Hop is Dead album. There's the Godson, I believe, album. I think that one gets the Grammy. Nas finally gets a Grammy. I think it's Godson.
No, I thought he didn't get a Grammy until like last year. Godson was. We'll figure. We can cut this out if we don't know. But
okay.
I don't remember. There's a lot of. He has like 14 albums now, so it's kind of hard to remember the order of all of them. To be honest.
Really and truly, I don't remember.
Was Godson the one he did right after his mom died?
Maybe. Should we look this up?
No.
Okay.
No, we're in it. Y'all tell us in the comments.
Tell us in the comments.
You're our lifeline. You know, in like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? It's like phone a friend. Y'all are our friends that we're phoning.
Exactly.
So tell us.
And you know, by reason, you know why I stopped paying attention, right? Why I can't count the albums after, right?
Why?
Because he got too big. Got too big. I'll just remember 94 Nas, and that'll be it.
Just the one album.
I'll just have my nostalgia. Oh, that
I'm just
Nas.
going to play Illmatic on repeat for the rest of my days.
He got a little too big for his britches after that Stillmatic. You know what I'm saying? But no, it's hard for me to keep track of all the albums. But I know Distant Relatives, right around after there, hip-hop did kind of die. Because about 2006, he signs to Def Jam. And then he makes the Hip Hop is Dead album.
Yeah.
And then he has the album right after that where he wanted to call the N-word. And everybody was like, hell fucking no. Okay?
Yeah.
And he didn't call it that.
I remember that also was happening. And like, I was like 13, like fucking white kid from Florida. I didn't even really understand why. Like, I was like, I don't really know why this is like. So I didn't know the history of like the word or anything. I just knew that was like the worst thing you could call a black person ever. And I remember him trying to do that. And I was like, that's fucking wild. I'm like, how the fuck are you trying to? And I was so young. I was like, you can't do that.
My first thing, if I ever saw him in person, is like, you don't have enough money? Like, that would have been what I would have asked him.
I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. So, yeah, so then eventually it became just Untitled.
Yes, it's an Untitled album. That's so funny that he got so much heat. I mean, even Al Sharpton had something to say. Like,
even 50 Cent had something to say.
It's like, why are you going to do that? 50 was annoyed.
Yeah, like, he was just like, why?
Yeah.
So that was crazy. What else? Fuck, what was I going to say? He married Khalees.
Yes, he did marry Khalees.
And that's something else I want to talk about because I literally only know her from the Milkshake song.
Okay.
Because that's another thing. Like, was she like a big deal at the time? Like, I don't really know how big she was. Like,
oh man, I would say Khalees was big in the hood because you can get so big in the hood. I mean, and everybody will know you. She was kind of on the hip hop R&B type singer level. I would say probably, she was big in the hood, and it was Neptunes. So Neptunes was on the come up. And so they produced
I didn't know he
beats
was
and
like,
stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Pharrell and Chad and stuff like that. She hates them now, though, but
Why?
They own all the rights to her music, and she doesn't get a penny of this.
Yeah.
So Milkshake plays and plays and plays, and Pharrell gets paid.
And it brings all the boys to Pharrell's yard.
Yeah, and Pharrell was dating Khalees at that time, and told her totally that they would split it all three ways, and still jerked her.
You got to get that shit in writing.
Oh my gosh, girl. Yeah, she was like 18, 19, though. She didn't know. But yeah, she was hood big. So that's good enough as far as I'm concerned, because it's like underground, and you're still charting as well. I always felt that was a mismatch. I know that they made kids, but I always felt it was a mismatch.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I just didn't think it was a good match.
Well, apparently you were right. Because
come to me.
They were married like 40 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they divorced while she was pregnant, and she didn't even tell him where she was having the baby. He found out from TMZ.
Harvey.
That's fucked up.
That is fucked up.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, and the two of them really butt heads, and I don't know. She didn't even want him to announce that that she had a baby, but he made the announcement, which made a bigger argument between the two of them. But now, I don't know how amicable they are. I doubt it.
Well, Well, hopefully they can keep it, amicable for a child.
Yeah.
Because Nas always said, he had a baby back in like the Illmatic time as well, and he was like, I just wanted to provide a life for them that I wasn't able to have. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so I hope, and he definitely is able to support his baby with Khalees in ways that he wasn't supported.
Yeah.
Just at least monetarily.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I don't really know enough about that to really speak on it.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth, a bitter divorce, because you can imagine it gets into the blogs and the tabloids, you hear it and stuff like that. It was really bad. I don't know. They both accused each other of cheating. Maybe they both did. Maybe they both didn't. Who knows? Who knows? And we shouldn't care. Like, you know what I mean? That's their life.
I don't.
Yeah, and and I just like it better when kind of famous people date non-famous people, because then you don't have to get involved in a way, right? Like,
oh, we should also mention that when Nas signed with Def Jam, the president was Jay-Z of the label. So at that point, it was officially like, well, let's just not do this anymore.
Yeah.
We're good, right?
Right. They used to see each other but not speak, and then finally when they actually met face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jay-Z actually asked Nas if he was all right. Because, his mom had just passed away and stuff like that. And I could totally see that. The two of them in particular don't strike me as malicious, shoot up the place type of people. If you really piss Jay-Z off, he will stab you in the stomach. But...
or he'll get someone to shoot you.
Yeah.
But he's not going to do it himself.
But yeah, he's not going to shoot Nas. Like, I could see him kind of letting something like that be gone, because he sees Nas as his contemporary, and Jay-Z is the type of guy, I feel, who needs to be the big dog.
Yeah. And that is a weird thing, because he was technically like his boss, I guess, in that situation. But then... I will give him credit. He said in an interview, right? He was like, "You don't sign an artist like Nas. You can only partner with an artist like Nas." So that shows a lot of respect, and for him, that's big for him. I think, to be able to say, like, to throw that shit behind when clearly he lost the beef that he started.
Yes, he definitely did. I mean, Jay-Z put the hammer down on the radio stations. Okay, when Nas was like, "Plus Eminem murdered you" on your own track. We never heard Renegade on the radio ever again. Yeah.
Renegade was a song, Eminem and Jay-Z, where Eminem's verse was crazy.
Right?
Yeah, and then, but that is actually really funny. When you told me that, I was like, that's wild.
Never heard, and it used to come on a lot, okay? Yeah. Because they talk about payola and stuff like that. Jay-Z had New York radio in a chokehold, okay? Like mornings and nights, So
what about afternoons?
Maybe some afternoons as well.
What about brunch time?
Possibly a brunch time. Oh man. But
I also want to say, like, if you are, like we said before, Jay-Z is an artist, he's a sensitive guy, and if you are an artist and you have obviously a lot of respect for hip hop, you're going to at some point appreciate Nas for what he's done and how talented he is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, if you're really objective about it, you're just like, this guy is fucking great. Like, why should we be fighting? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I think it is cool that they ended up, kind of partnering together in that way.
Yeah.
After all that shit.
Me too. I really do. I felt that was great. I loved seeing them. I forgot what video it was. I loved seeing him, Diddy, and Jay-Z all together in a room, with like suits on and stuff like that, because in our eyes, like as like young hip hoppers watching them, they kind of crossed the threshold. They made it to the other side, where it's like a rapper's career around when they first came out, like in the 90s, a rapper's career, you would be lucky if you lasted like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Like Big Daddy Kane is still seen as the king of New York, but his rap career pretty much just went from like 87 to like 89.
Well, I always think about that with like Run DMC.
Yeah.
Because they were the shit for a while. And then literally like 5 years later, like no one...
Right.
That's not the thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just became so different. Like, you think of Run DMC versus Biggie. There's only, 6-7 years in between, and like it could not be more different about what is it at
Absolutely,
the time.
because people would forget about you really fast. You think you had a short attention span. Now, like if you went to jail for like a year as a rapper, that's it. You could just kiss your career goodbye, because nobody would care about you when you came out the next year. But now it's totally different.
Yeah. Now you can make songs in jail and it's all good.
Yeah, now it's like Jay and them. They're like the Rolling Stones of the rap era. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, they're still on stage. Like, wow, they can still make albums. Like, wow, they could put out an album and people will still like it. Like,
yeah, Well, I guess that's like him, Snoop,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
not to bring the fucking West Coast into this, but yeah,
We got to because Jay-Z wrote for Dr. Dre. How about that? Ghost Rider.
Yeah, well, we could talk about. We could do a podcast on Dr. Dre for sure.
Dun, 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 hell yeah.
But so obviously Nas is one of those people that, you know, surpassed that expectation and is still around. And it is really crazy, like when you think of, you know, he was 17 when he was really getting into this shit, and he's still around. And it's like, and he was kind of bestowed as being this prodigy, as being like the next one. And he, you know, he faltered a little bit during that era we were talking about where, you know, he was like kind of losing, you know, his credibility a little bit.
Right.
But he's been here the whole time.
Yeah.
He's been around. And he's still fucking alive. Which is a big deal when you're talking about this shit.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. It's a good thing to see them not only make it to the other side, but to look healthy still, you know what I'm saying, and still be able to still get accolades. I think he's doing something at, is it Yale or Harvard? I know there's a course based on him, and I forgot which Ivy League school.
Like studying his lyrics?
Yeah.
Oh shit, I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, it's one of the Ivy League school. I learned about this a few years ago, so I didn't check on it in my research for this podcast, but I know about it. That there's a course like studying his lyricism, or he's definitely involved. And I don't know which Ivy League.
This is something I want to say because I mean, we talked about this before. The second podcast we ever did was Biggie, and I think Biggie's the greatest ever, just based on like his flow and the way that he sounds and the way that he like goes on the beat. But like, if you were to like have a sheet of Biggie lyrics printed out and just reading it, and then you would have it next to a sheet of Nas lyrics, like reading it, like I wouldn't just sit there and read Biggie lyrics with no beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with Nas, it's like that's poetry by itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't. It's way cooler because it's with a beat, and more people are gonna be open to it because it's in music, and obviously music crosses so many barriers and opens so many doors to people. But like just as far as the words and the lyrical content, like it's just so fucking deep.
Yeah.
Like he is like the epitome of like a hood poet. You know what I mean? Like the shit that he was writing and just the way that he was describing things and the vocabulary that he used, it just really is like one of the highest forms of poetry.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
That is for sure. I mean, what a cool thing. What a cool gift to have and to share with everybody in the world. I love when they talk about Nas, how they say like when he was younger coming up in the game, how he didn't like to be outside. You would not see him and stuff like that because that was the word on the street. Like Nas was like just coming up and he would be at small venues. So probably Parkside Lounge, which is like an open mic that we play, and like areas like that, downtown Manhattan. And what we would hear all the time is that Nas did not show up. Like for the show, I don't know if it was a promoter issue. I don't know what it was, but he used to never show up to shows and stuff like that, which is funny.
You think that was purposeful to kind of like create like a mystique?
Who knows? Because
You know?
people didn't seem upset. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, you know, you start a riot or something like that. No shootouts happened. People were just like, oh, damn. Because there were probably other people on the bill, maybe.
Yeah.
That were just as great. But... Or, you know,
or close
to being
close
great, you know. Yeah, like it would probably be, I don't know who's popping around then with them. Yeah, it would probably be like, let's say Nas and the Lost Boys. You know what I'm saying? So that's like Mr. Cheeks, they're from Queens too. And God, this is for my peeps with the Lex Cruiser Beamers and the Benz, right? Those guys, right? So they're super live, right? They're gonna be on stage doing that. So if Nas doesn't show up with his deep thought poetry and stuff like that, and the
Like,
Lost
we'll
Boys
take
are
this.
there, you'll be all right.
Right, that's interesting.
Well, yeah, that's pretty hilarious. Sometimes I have a favorite rapper, sometimes I don't. Like, you know, sometimes I have a top 5, sometimes I don't. Nas is definitely in there in my top 5. He may not be my number 1. It kind of jumbles around from time to time.
Right.
But he's definitely in there and should be.
Yeah, well, like I was saying, I mean, the dude he's a prodigy, and this is how I'm trying to say this. He's taken that potential that he had as a prodigy, and he lived it. Because it could be so easy. I mean, there's so many things in this story. Like, what if he was outside that day when fucking Will got shot?
Right.
It could have just, none of this could have happened.
Yeah.
What if, you know, after Will got shot, what if he just decided, I'm just going to really focus on selling drugs and making money,
right,
instead of focusing on the rap, we wouldn't be talking about him right now.
It's true.
You know what I mean? And there would be such a piece of hip hop history missing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there's all these little things that could have happened for him to not be like who he was and who he became.
Yeah.
But he at the end of the day, he always was focused on his mission and what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
And here we are, and we're still talking about him. He's still alive. He's put out like an album like a couple months ago or some shit.
Yeah, yeah, just recently, and I think I think it's called King's Disease Part 2.
Yeah,
I think King's Disease gets the Grammy.
Yes,
that's what it is.
Yes, that's what it was. Okay. Yeah.
Redeemed.
Yeah, so the dude's winning Grammys now.
All right, talk your shit somewhere else.
Right, that is crazy. Like, you know, you put out your first album. And it's an absolute classic when you're like 18,
mm-hmm.
and then when you're like 40 something, you get your first Grammy.
Yeah,
like that's just that's persistence.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's just a testament to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Absolutely.
what I mean. So there's just so many things great about him.
Yeah,
not just the talent, because you can have a lot of talent, but if you don't put the work behind it and the persistence, you're not gonna go where you should.
Exactly.
And that's not an issue with him.
No, not at all. Not at all. Definitely one of Queens' finest. Definitely one of New York's finest. And if you're in New York City, stop by his restaurant on Flatbush Avenue called Sweet Chick. I heard the food's good.
Sweet. I feel like I might have been there.
Probably.
That sounds so familiar.
Is it Park Place or St. Mark's? Flatbush in there?
I don't know. We're gonna look this up later. For anyone that's like that doesn't know your Newark, like why are you talking about all these city streets? I don't know where the fuck this is. But yeah, I don't know. What else should we say? What else should we say about the legend?
Thank you, Nas, for your legendariness.
Thanks for being you. But yeah, he's just the best. Thanks for watching. I was gonna say, if you don't know all of his music, you should go listen to it. But if you're listening to the podcast at this point, fucking over an hour in, there's no way you don't know some of Nas' music.
Exactly. Exactly, but he has made some bangers. Even the stuff he does, check out all the stuff he does off the grid in a way too, because he's not a gangster rapper, but he'll make a song with Raekwon, he'll make a song with Mobb Deep and stuff. So yeah, check that version of Nas out too.
Yeah. So shout out to Nas. Shout out to Queensbridge.
Yeah, we didn't even mention how he made the album with his dad. They kind of
oh shit, yeah. Well, after his mom died,
right,
he really wanted to reach out and connect with his dad, and he ended up making music with his dad, which is really fucking cool.
Yeah, I love the way his dad sounds on those blues things. Right, it's that old blues voice that you just want to hear.
And he's from Mississippi.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so
I don't know why, but it is.
Yeah, no, yeah, fuck, I can't believe we almost forgot to mention that.
Yeah, we got to mention that. Shout out to Oludara, and shout out to Nas bridging the gap and, you know, reconnecting with his dad, who, you know, obviously his talent, most of his talent came from, you know.
Musically, at least.
Musically, you know, not his talent for, I don't know, making money or good-looking kids.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wait, that did come from his dad.
And
his mom.
I don't know. Just,
what happened?
But yeah, so shout out to both of them. Like we were saying, shout out to Queensbridge.
For sure.
Shout out to just the hip hop culture at NYC in general, I guess.
Yeah.
Because really, I feel like there was a point where it was kind of like Queensbridge and South Bronx.
Yeah.
Right? Like those were like the hubs.
Didn't Jungle say that? He was like, I thought we made hip hop up in Queensbridge. He said he thought it was from there.
Prove to me that it wasn't.
You know what I'm saying? Oh my God. Imagine growing up like that. It's all out in the park. Like they're literally out in the park. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So that is what it is. That's the story of Nasir Jones, aka Nas, aka Nasty Nas.
Yeah,
who was originally, I don't even think we said that.
No.
He was originally Nasty Nas.
I think we did in the beginning.
I don't know if you fucking remember.
Nasty Nas to Escobar.
Yeah.
Now he is not. I think it goes up.
Yeah, so all the shout outs. Shout out to you for watching. If you're still here. This has been another episode, Music Maniacs for Sight After Dark. If you like the podcast, go to patreon.com/musicmaniacs. Support, help us keep doing this. Hopefully, with your help, we'll be able to do this more, make more episodes, all that good stuff. But until next time, we're Sight After Dark.
We are.
And we'll see you soon.